which is out, and proved wholeheartedly that I have absolutely no self-control and watched it in one night during the holidays, because the holidays, let's keep it real, are exhausting. So, Merry Christmas to you all, I suppose. Yeah, which is out, and to be frank, it was good. It was very good. I was surprised at how good it was, because if you've watched season 1 or if you've just heard a bit about season 1, you know that it had a lot of criticism, justified criticism, might I add, and they changed that. They actually took it and said, okay, that wasn't that good, let's improve it. And kudos to them and congratulations on them. They basically made the Sonic, and it's nice, it's good, perfect. I love it. But first, let's recap. In season 1 Witcher, we have established a couple of main characters. We have Geralt of Rivia. He's our eye candy, basically, and he just runs around, kills monsters, and does not a lot otherwise anyway. We've got Yasimir, a bard, who's just there and sings songs, is somewhat a comedic relief character, which was okay. We also got Yennefer van Wengerberg. Yennefer is one of the most powerful magicians in the world or on the continent. Have they established that in season 1? Nope, but she still is. Those two run around in different timelines actually until the end, when they all end up on one place and time, because Yennefer is like the oldest. Not sure. Anyway, she said that she lived about 2 lifetimes or something. And Geralt is also older and Yasimir is younger. He's like 30, 40, I've got no clue. He's just a regular human adult. While they're on their travelings, Yennefer and Geralt bang basically. Yasimir doesn't like Yennefer for some reason, but nobody likes Yennefer for some reason in the series. It does not really make the most sense of it. On one of their adventures, Geralt and Yasimir go to a kingdom, Sintra, where the princess wants to marry a hedgehog, but her grandma says no because he's too spiky. So the princess basically reveals that she's magic, and one's like, yeah, but grandma, I want to have my hedgehog. He pokes me good. Granny's like, nope. And Gerald is like, well, but They fight. The hedgehog is not anymore a hedgehog, but a man. Because Geralt did stuff, the grandma says, oh, okay, well, but destiny is gonna reward you, so what is it that you seek? And he's like, yeah, I don't want anything. And she's like, yeah, well, don't care. Take something. He's like, yeah, okay, I take the same as he did. I take the law of surprise. I take a puppy or a cat that's born next. It's not very good explained in the season 1, but turns out the princess is pregnant and has a daughter, Cirilla, which is, by the way, the funniest reveal of a pregnancy ever. It's like, yeah, I take the law of surprise, and the princess in the background is like, ooh, just vomiting. It's like, oh my god, you're pregnant. It's like, yeah. And Geralt sits there, shit. Yeah, that's how he becomes basically a dad somehow. Yennefer and Geralt have a fight because she also wants to have children, but she can't because she's a witch and she had to give that part up. And she wants everything. Not sure why she's not just claiming the law of surprise, since, I mean, do it often enough and you eventually will get a child. Or again, it wasn't really explained, and I'm not really taking into consideration to the books, because I really just want to judge the series by itself and not the books. And Dune showed that I cannot shut up about books. Let's continue on. Yeah, that's basically season 1 in a nutshell. Now let's switch to season 2. Again, there will be spoilers for absolutely everything. End of season 1, Geralt and Ciri found one another. Yeah, because they were looking for one another. Totally forgot. Oops. Geralt takes Ciri in the first episode to his friend that lives in a castle, and basically is a retale of the Beauty and the Beast, because he was, as he states at the very beginning, he was vandalizing a temple. Later he also admits that he was also raping the priestesses. The priestesses weren't very keen on that, surprisingly. Cursed him to look like a boar. He actually seems like a rather nice person, and they have a talk about monsters and what a monster is, and not that everything that looks bad actually is a monster. Just because you look nice doesn't mean you're a nice person, but also vice versa. Ciri thinks that he's actually a good person, he just looks like a boy, and she's not afraid of him because of his looks. Yeah, until she figures out that he raped priestesses, which she is not too keen on. surprisingly. But he fell in love with a monster, with a bruja, I guess it was it. And might I add, she actually looked absolutely divine, but she was also looking so eerie, and her movements were so spot on. The cutting was perfect. It was amazing. She was introduced as actually not that bad, but she was still a monster. I somewhat like the philosophical aspect of it, the questioning at what is good, what is bad, where do we draw the line, and so on. It was a lot better than season 1, episode 1, in which they were trying to tell the Snow White story. It was a lot better. It was so spot on. It set the tone completely right for the season. Then on the way to basically Witch's Gate, where all the witches keep their stuff, where all the witches are on train. That was nice. I also liked the optics. It was lovely. They trained, they spent some time there. They still try to figure out what Syria is, or in which connection she is to everyone else, and the Nilfgaardians, and why the Nilfgaardian wants her. And she also is hunted by some monsters, and some monsters are new. They've never seen them, so there are a lot of exploring there. And meanwhile, it cuts back to Yennefer, who lost all her powers because she was stepping into fire magic. Nice touch that there is a consequence. And I also like that she wasn't just immediately getting her power back, but actually had to think of different ways how she could be useful. And I mean, imagine she's like 150 years old. Most of that time she was using magic, and now she's without it. That was nice. Eventually, like, what was it, 4th, 5th episode, Yasimir also came back, the bard. He was still a comedic relief, but besides this mouse scene that was also in the trailers, him being a comedic relief was spot on. There was nothing like completely too cheesy. He also had one scene with a ward. This guard was standing there and telling like, yeah, you wrote a song basically about season 1. It was so confusing because all the timelines were so confusing, and I haven't gotten that there were different timelines till like episode 4. The plot with the dragon, I saw that a mile away, and that was actually nice because they were telling the viewers on a meta level that they knew what they did wrong in the first season, and they acknowledged it and tried to improve it. So that was a very nice touch. I actually genuinely liked that. Yeah, basically a lot of stuff happens. We also have the side plot with the, not side plot, very important plot actually, with the Nilfgaardian army and how they're trying to improve it, and the elves, that they're hunted down and they hadn't had children in hundreds of years. We see their leader, a female elf, and she's pregnant, and she strikes a deal with she thinks God. It turns out it's a bad, evil witch, which she shouldn't make a bargain with, and she wasn't aware of that somehow. God. Anyway, she strikes a deal with her. If she makes an alliance with the Nilfgaardians, then she will have the first elf baby born, or alive baby born. And it happens. And to be honest, it was so nice because you could see how the child was brought into the world, and how the news spread that there was a live baby elf. So you could see very shortly. I would have liked it if it was a bit longer, but they switched back on it, but still would have liked it a bit longer. How all of the elves were celebrating and being genuinely happy, and I just couldn't smile when I saw that because it was so nice. You could see how happy the elves were. It did not last very long, sadly, because, I don't know, they're stupid and they decided, oh well, we've got a new child because of this alliance. Well, that alliance, I guess, which basically just ended in the elves not wanting to go to war because they wanted to live now and not die, which is why the Nilfgaardians turned on them and they killed the baby. Said, yeah, well, it was other people from the north, so go and kill them. And they do, and go to war and all die. Sorry, but that was just stupid on their part, but the writing was nice because it was reasonable, somewhat reasonable why they wanted to actually stop fighting. It was nicely written, so it somewhat made sense in some context, but it's still a stupid decision. But as I said, writing improved a lot. Said Witch also made a bargain with Yennefer, so Yennefer could get her powers back, but Yennefer wasn't like the dum-dum everyone else was, and decided, nope, not gonna do it because that is a trap, which she was basically right on. So Yennefer was refusing and refusing until she just couldn't anymore, and said, okay, cool, what do you have to do? And the witch tells her, okay, basically find this girl, in this case Ciri, and bring her to a specific place, and then you will get your powers back. And And Yennefer says, okay, cool. She teleports to everywhere, but I mean, everyone teleports anywhere because they're in basically Game of Thrones season 8 regarding that matter. She finds Ciri, and then she figures out that she's the child of Geralt, and she's somewhat conflicted, but she still decides to go with her to a place and to Sintra, to her old kingdom. Before she reaches the castle, she has somewhat a change of heart, or Ciri figures out that what's going on. She then has a change of heart. Guards find them, they fight, Geralt comes. It was so lovely how Geralt comes. And I mean, he is in love with Yennefer. He just puts his sword on her third and wants to make sure that Ciri is safe to go with Yennefer, kill the witch. It was a nice touch. I really liked it. I liked the execution, I liked the pictures, it was nice. Ciri, meanwhile, goes on horses back to basically Witch's Gate, where the witch escapes and somehow goes into Ciri and decides she's going to take her and use her to kill all the witches and go back to another plane. Because they also figured out that the Great Conjunction, which basically started monsters coming in and stuff like that, wasn't the planes being all at one place, but just having an overlap. And that is going to overlap more because of Ciri. And Ciri can basically open up portals to the different planes. And this witch also wasn't just necessarily evil, she just wanted to go home to her plane. So she opens up the gate, lets some monsters out so the witches will not kill her. And then she just wanted to go back home, which also was a nice throwback to the first episode, in which the question was, is everyone necessarily evil just because they seem like it? And her agenda wasn't just killing the whole world, it was to return home because she's been 3,000 years on this plane. Yennefer basically sacrifices herself, which was funny because I remember 30 Reasons Why in shows like that, they also had a trigger warning when it was about showing scars on when someone tried to commit suicide or openly cuts their wrist open and stuff like that. And here, it just happens. It's just like, oh well, thump, it's open, I'm bleeding out now. They did that like twice. That was interesting to see. Personally, I wasn't really offended, but I could see that that's somewhat problematic for someone who's triggered by that. But I mean, it's in Yennefer's character. Yennefer sacrifices herself. She obviously survives since she's a main character. She also gets her powers back in the very last episode. They figure out that Ciri is basically a child of the chaos, and she's supposed to be on the wild hunt to basically overrun her world, to put it easy. Which she obviously doesn't want to do. They know that she's basically the key to everything, and in the very last scene they ask themselves, wait, but how did the Nilfgaardians know all of this? They were the first to know. No one else knew, besides maybe her family. There we also have the plot twist that she's a Skywalker. Her dad is the leader of the Nilfgaardian army and he wants to get to her. Not necessarily sure why he just not took her with him when he left, or I don't know, killed her when she was a baby and he had the chance. Maybe he didn't do. But season 3 is confirmed, so we'll figure out there what explanation they're going to use for. Since, again, it is closer to the books than the games, but still, they do have creative freedom, so maybe they're changing it. To be honest, not the biggest fan of it, because it's like one family is f***ing up the whole planet again. I wasn't the biggest fan of this revelation, since it was, again, just one family that's gonna destroy the whole world because they just can't have a talk on a table. But, I mean, talking would be way too easy, wouldn't it? I mean, we also know that from season 1, since half of the plot just happened because Shiri didn't know shit, and no one else as well. So they're down the destinies, so there are sadly no more drinking games for us, but for everyone who likes that, Geralt is making a lot more sounds. I cannot make them. YouTubers just cut it together when he was murmuring or just doing something. There was a lot more of that going on, which was nice. So yeah, overall, it was a good season. I'm actually looking very forward in what they're trying to do, or what they're going to do in season 3. And it was nice. It was lovely. So personally, I'm looking forward. Season 2 was very nice. It was good. They improved a lot. I can't wait to figure out what they're still going to do. What was your opinion about season 2? Did you like it? Which one did you think was better, season 1 or season 2? Write it down in the comments. Leave a like, dislike if you'd like.